Good evening, what's happening YouTube? Thanks for stopping back into the channel today right here with the Rust Belt Mechanic. Tonight we're going to be talking about all the maintenance that I do here with the Duramax. We've got it back into the shop, talking about what I do on a regular basis to keep this truck up. As we all know, it's got compound turbos, built transfer case, lifted 7 inches on a BDS suspension kit, and all the bigger wheels and tires to go along with it. We're going to go through each one of these components and everything on how I upkeep them, especially living here in Ohio in the Rust Belt, trying to keep this thing up throughout the year. Now, yeah, I know. You got a Mopar mechanic who drives this Chevy. I catch that kind of a joke all the time, but you know what? I love this truck, and you know what? You guys love this truck too, because it's an amazing thing. What we've built on this has absolutely come out awesome with all the upgrades, and the fact that it was a California truck prior to me getting it. It is one of the cleanest 2006 LBZ Chevy trucks that you will ever see, and anyone who has ever seen this truck in person can definitely vouch for that, and it is super clean. So we're going to get in through each of the maintenance items that I go through on this truck to keep it up as this clean of a truck. So very first thing that I want to get into on this one is obviously going to be engine maintenance, the oil change and everything like that. So let's hop under the hood and have a look. All right, let's hop in under here. So the 6.6 liter Duramax engine inside of these are normally a pretty healthy beast. Now this one obviously is heavily modified, which actually doesn't change a whole lot of the direction that I go with when I'm upkeeping these diesel trucks, especially in the pre-DEF era. This one didn't come with any DEF, not any fancy exhaust parts or anything like that, so don't have to worry about any of that. This one doesn't have EGR now. It might have in the past, but I think it fell off somewhere, so we don't really have to worry about that one either. So actually the first thing that we need to get into is the oil change on this one. Now, a lot of guys have their own version and their own formula, like I only run Royal Purple, that's the only thing that'll ever touch my engine. Me personally, I have a totally different philosophy. I think that most modern oils are actually very advanced. They're able to go and be able to meet certain specifications for manufacturers these days. Pretty much 95% of oils that you purchase at just any regular auto parts store is going to meet all the specifications for your standard manufacturers. So if it meets all the qualifications, then why not go the normal maintenance amount, or at least some kind of enhanced heavy duty schedule or whatever you want to consider for these more heavy duty trucks, whether you're hauling or whatnot. Me personally, I do haul. I do haul a 20-foot trailer, as you guys have seen here on the channel, the side-by-side, as well as certain other things that people that want me to help them move and everything like that with that trailer also. So hauling every once in a while, I usually do it 2 to 3 times a month, right around there. So it is not really a heavy-duty haul schedule or anything like that, but it does get used in that aspect. So I prefer to stick with the quantity of oil changes over what people would call the quality, the only top cream of the cream oils, only the, you know, the platinum oils, or you know what, pretty much your Rotella is pretty much going to be the cream of the crop for these diesel engines. Even if you're not getting their T6 full synthetic, the 1540 Rotella is something that has been tried and true for the last decade, and it's something that I actually use here in the shop. We actually carry it in bulk for most of our diesel engines. It's something that the manufacturer still likes to see put in their new engines these days. So that's what I'm going to stick with on this one. As far as the maintenance service interval on this one, I just do it every 2.5 to 3 months. It depends on the kind of driving that I do. This time it ended up coming right around to about 3,500 miles, but I'm going to do it every 3 months because of how I use this truck. I know every once in a while, in between doing all those towing and everything, I might run it a little harder than I need to, but that's what gets done. So let's get into the oil change on this one. We're going to drain it out from the bottom and check out and see the oil filter and everything. First off, big hint to you newbies that are doing oil changes in the shops. Take off your oil cap, which this one, it happens to be a billet oil cap from Bitterroot Diesel. You can go and check them out. You actually set your oil cap inside of this little valley area, which is where your hood latch is. So that way, when you go to put your hood down, if you forgot to put oil back into it, forgot to put the cap on, your hood's gonna hit that and not be able to latch. So pro tip there. So we're going to drain our oil first off right here, and why I like to drain the oil first is this is pretty much a good indication of how your motor is running. In these diesels, there is a good indication on whether, if you see some kind of water and coolant coming out first, then you know you've got a head gasket issue. You know, especially when you're running as much horsepower and pressure and boosts and stuff as we're running, you might run into a couple of these issues. So you're looking for coolant first off, see if that comes through. If that doesn't happen, that's cool. You're also going to be looking out for any fuel, any kind of thinner oil that's coming out of the system or anything like that. You're going to be able to smell diesel fuel inside of this oil. You don't want to see that, because obviously that could indicate that you might have an injector issue as well. So let's get this all drained out and see what we got. And our diesel oil actually looks really good. It looks really clean. It's not real thin and runny. It's not, you know, sticky or anything like that. Doesn't have any extra chemicals, any kind of extra fuel or anything. Doesn't smell like fuel. So we're looking good in that area. So we're gonna get that drained, get the oil filter off so we can put some new ones on. All right, now as far as parts goes on this one, I really like to stick with a lot of the factory stuff, so I just go with the good old AC Delco, tried and true on these things. Nothing too fancy, no, you know, fancy $30-some oil filter. With the amount of time that I go through on these, I don't put a whole lot of extra miles or anything, so I don't feel that I really need all that extra whatever frilly crap that people put into these things. So good old tried and true AC Delco filter. Part number on this one was PF2232, going back on it. So we'll get that one done, fill her up with 12 quarts of good old 1540 Rotella, and we'll be good to go on the oil change. Now we're going to be moving on to our fuel system. As you guys know, in one of the earlier videos, I showed you how to install an AirDog 4G 165 lift pump setup. So I have these filter and water separator units still on here. Now, just for video purposes, I have specifically not emptied this water separator in roughly 3.5 months or so, ever since my last oil change. So I have not drained this one at all. I just wanted to be able to show you guys how well this one works, separating the water, and how much it actually takes water out of the fuel that is used in this system, just to show you guys how important it is to have one of these. All right, and we're gonna let this separate here. All right, now that we've had a couple minutes for it to separate here, let's see if we can have a look at just how well this one has kind of looked. Let's lower the camera down and see if we can see the separation point there. You see the separation point there with the water and the fuel? Yep, that is what 3 months of not draining out your water separator will do. These AirDog systems, they do such a good job at separating the water out, and that's before it even ever gets into the 2-micron filter unit. So you've got the water separator there, and then you've got your 2-micron filter unit, which does house any amount of particles and water and everything down to 2 microns. So double filtration there on that one. I really, really love this unit. So we're got this one separated out, and since this has been about the 4th oil change or so since we've put this whole unit in, I've actually got some brand new filter and a new water separator to be able to put on this thing. So now I don't really know if it's really considered me being a brand whore or whatnot, but me personally, because this unit was built with, tested with, and everything with AirDog specific filters and their water separators, that's what all of the development went into for this unit. So why not put exactly what came in it and what it was tested with back into it? So I do have the Diesel RX AirDog specific 2-micron fuel filter, as well as the WS100 700 water separator to be able to put back onto here, make everything all kosher, good to go. Hopefully be good to go for another 15,000 miles. I know there's not a whole lot of spots underneath the vehicle, but while I'm underneath of it, I like to touch up any kind of surface rust spots that we have on this. Now, I know prior to this, I also told you guys that I do get this thing treated at Z-Bart. They go underneath and they touch up any of the undercoating once a year for free. It's a great service that they provide, but I also like touching it up here and there because I don't want any kind of corrosion on this frame at all, because it pretty much is mint. So any kind of times that I have a little bit of the undercoating chipping off or anything, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the chips off, scrape it off a little bit, get my little pocket screwdriver out and take some of the flaking bits off of it so nothing is actually flaking there at that point. And then I've just got some undercoating or some little fresh under primer, some paint, black paint, whatever's going to be able to seal it up, spray it up so we don't have any more issues down the road. Also, normally at this point I would be doing a tire rotation on this thing, but also I do this every other oil change. In the last oil change, I actually rotated my tires. So the big important thing on these things, especially when you're running oversized wheels, tires, and rims, is to make sure you do your tire rotations as you're supposed to, and make sure you check your alignment. It's really cheap for some of the places for you to go in and get a quick alignment check. Some places even do it for free. I know our dealership, every time you come into the service drive, we have one of the quick lane alignment check machines that's able to check the alignment on any vehicle, even lifted vehicles. These Hunter alignment machines, they're no joke. They're able to check the alignment on these lifted trucks just as easy. So get your alignment checked so you're not running through these $400 and $500 tires every 5 or 6 months. No fun on that one, I guess, unless you're whistling diesel and just ripping them off. Next thing up is going to be greasing your suspension. I know all of these lift kits have a lot of big parts, big moving things, and those really nice kits like this one from BDS actually have greasable zerks. I also put different control arms in it. We've got kryptonite upper control arms as well as PPE outer tie rod ends. Everything has greasable zerks, so make sure you use them. Over greasing is also an issue. You don't want to be over greasing. You can usually tell at which point your zerks are going to be filled and your boots are going to be bulging just a slight amount. Usually I like to fill it up right to the point where it's bulging just a little bit more than it was prior to. Anything excess that's come out of it, I like to wipe that off, clean it off really good so you don't have to worry about that one down the road either. On this truck specifically, we've got about 5 or 6 grease zerks on either side, so we've got about 10 in the front. Our traction bars in the back have grease zerks. Our shocks at their boots have grease zerks, and the traction bars on each one of the ends of those boots also have zerks as well. So we've got a lot of greasing to do, so I'll get to pumping that in. I know you guys don't need to see that one, but we got to get that done every time you guys do an oil change. Another thing for you guys who run these bigger wheels and tires, every time you guys do one of these oil changes, or at least every other time, is to make sure you guys get your balance checked on your tires. For me specifically, I don't really have to worry about that because I'm running balance beads. One other thing that I would definitely recommend for you guys to look into, because you don't have to worry about that balance in your tires as they wear down over time. The balance beads, when they're in the tires, they contour and they form and they match to the high spots in the tires the different way each one of the tire rides every single time you drive it. So you never have to worry about getting out of balance issues as they wear. Another great thing to look into. Next in your driveline is going to be your differentials and transfer case. Now your differentials, depending on what kind of driving application you guys do or towing, might need checked on a little bit more often. Generally, transfer cases and driveline components like your differentials, they need to be serviced about every 15 to 20,000 miles, again depending on how hard you use them. Me personally, I like to do them once every year. I only put about 10 to 12,000 miles on a vehicle every year, but I also have like a Class B amount of towing that I do with this vehicle, so I do like to check them once every year. I usually do mine in the oil change just prior to winter because I know at that point I seal everything up really good on the cases, make sure everything's got a good amount of coating on it, some fluid film and coating for the wintertime because I don't want to see any rust and corrosion. But every single oil change, I like to at least check the differential fluid because it's really simple. On this one, there's actually going to be a cover in the way because of the BDS, but it's actually right in behind that. I can get to that and be able to check the fluid level. The rear one's just as easy. Take the little fluid indicator level out, tap in there with your finger. Make sure you guys don't have any slurry of milkshake or any kind of metal shavings in your fluid. Would actually ruin your day really fast, so being able to catch that early is a really good thing to do. Transfer case fluid on this one, also really simple. Normally they're going to take either some 7590, some of them may take ATF4 depending on your application. This one being the built transfer case from Mark over at Kodiak Truck over in Wisconsin. He does an amazing job at it. His transfer cases actually run synthetic 530 oil, which is great. I've never had any kind of issue with his transfer cases. Absolutely love that thing. It's made driving this thing in the wintertime, especially with four-wheel drive, a breeze. The next thing is not going to be for everybody on all of these trucks, but for you guys who do run these power boards. I run these, they're like Amp Research boards, but they're not exactly that brand, but pretty much they're all the same components made in the same area. So with this best top set of brand boards, you need to maintain these. They don't have anywhere in their description or maintenance required on them, but for you guys, especially the ones who live in more northern states, you need to take care of these. Going through the winter months and all the salt and road grime and debris really hurts badly inside the joints of the arms. So I would say definitely at least a couple of times a year, you guys need to lube these up with some silicone spray. So usually every time I get an oil change or so, I'll make sure that I spray down and maybe put a little bit of grease at these joints as well. Once a year also, I like to take the motor off of the front leg unit on these things, and I like to put a little bit of grease in the end where like the little gear transfer or whatever you want to consider it, a transmission or whatever it might be. I like to take the motor off of that section and actually put some grease into that gear transfer area. That is one area that likes to build up a lot of road grime, debris, and corrosion, and that's what seizes up these boards really fast. So for you guys who have these power boards, don't think that they're maintenance free because they really aren't, especially in the northern states. Take care of them and they'll take care of you. I've personally had this set on. It was actually on the truck when I bought it back almost 3 years ago or so, and the guy had them on, showed a receipt from having them on a year and a half prior to that. So these have been on for 4.5 years or so, and I've not had any issues with these things at all. Make sure you guys take care of them. Now, how about all the rest of the fluids underneath here? You know we got the oil all taken care of. I've checked the transmission fluid. You want to make sure that you check that one. You're going to check that one in neutral running with the vehicle already up to temperature. Brake fluid, also a major important thing, especially when you guys are towing. If you guys get any kind of old brake fluid that's usually older than 3 to 5 years old, then you run more of a chance of that brake fluid being broken down. It is able to actually boil easier because it has more moisture content in it. So you are going to have issues with brakes fading away in the hot use while you guys are towing. So make sure you guys keep up on that brake fluid service as well. Coolant service on this one, I've got the coolant reservoir over there, one of the HSP ones. I check that one regularly. It also has the factory low fluid sensor in that one, so not really worried about the level on that one, but I like to service the coolant in my vehicle every other year. So that's just me personally. I know that coolant can last longer than that, but I like to keep up on things that I don't like the fluids to start breaking down. All right, so now what about our batteries? This specific setup, obviously with the diesels, always have 2 batteries because of the needed cranking power for the compression of the engine. Now these 2 batteries, you need to separate them. So you need to take like the grounds off of each one of them and test the battery separately. Today I'm going to be testing them with my SP Tools battery testing unit. This one is a great universal unit, a little more costly, but it's going to be a little bit more in depth. It's going to be able to test charging systems. It's going to go in depth with AGM flat plates if you guys are running better batteries, which eventually I'm going to go to because of what I've got going on this one. I have actually got this battery already separated from the other unit, and I'm running this thing through a test right now. So it tests through and it actually tells me already within that amount of time, that nice backlit display, that the battery is in need of replacement. Now the cool thing about this one, it does have a built-in printer into it, so if you're testing this for a friend or buddy or whatever, after everything's getting done, you want the customer to see the results, all you have to do is print it out and you have your results right on your nice little slip of paper right there. Good to go, good to show them. So great thing to pick up. I know SP Tools is actually running a really good deal on these right now. Right now you can pick up one of these and one of their super capacitor jump starters over on SP Tools USA's website. You can pick up the pair of them for $3.99. Now normally if you're buying these two separate, it's going to cost you almost $600. So really good savings if you guys are looking for a really good quality battery tester. It's also able to test everything else in your vehicle electronically for the charging system and whatnot. So a really good thing to be able to have. Now I guess since both of my batteries tested at about 400 cold cranking amps, it's a really good thing that I actually was talking to another company on batteries. Now due to all the COVID stuff going on, they haven't come out with this specific battery for this application yet, but you want to stay tuned because coming soon, hopefully at the end of July, early August or so, we'll be seeing brand new line of batteries for this thing that is going to be pretty game changing in this market. So you want to make sure you stay tuned for that one. One of the last things that I wanted to bring up was one of the most questions that I've actually received just at random points throughout the YouTube career and with this truck was what kind of diesel additive do I use, if any at all? Now I've gone through and I've tried a bunch of them. I haven't really done much in the way of serious testing with all of these products. I've been paying attention to my fuel mileage, how clean the exhaust is coming out, as well as how just well in general my truck runs, how well it warms up in the wintertime and everything like that, because here in Ohio you have a great range of temperature in really short periods of time, especially in the fall and winter months. So what do I specifically use? I use Howell's diesel treat and lubricant. I will put this one in about every 2 to 3 tanks of fuel. I'll put in about, a cup, maybe 2 cups worth into the diesel tank, able to treat the full tank of fuel. So I actually just filled this one up with diesel this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and add some into this. Just as easy as that, and me personally, I think this one has helped my truck run a little bit on the cleaner side. That's what I really like, especially. Picked up maybe 1 or so miles per gallon. I didn't really see a huge jump in MPGs on this one, but when you're running compound turbos and a higher compression Duramax, it's one thing or another. You're not really worried about MPGs all that much. So one thing or another, that's the way it is. All right, guys, that's about all the information that I've got for you today. I know there's a whole lot more stuff that I want to be able to go through and over on this truck, but I really want to save a couple of those things for another video. I know a lot of guys were asking about when you're checking for suspension components, what kind of stuff you're checking, which would be a really good thing to do at about this time, but I want to save that for another suspension video. A lot of guys also asking a lot of questions about the Raptor liner on the Duramax and how well it's holding up now that it's been like 2.5 years, and I am actually going to do another update video on that one since the 1-year update on it was so popular. I want to be able to go through and show exactly how well this Duramax has held up with that Raptor liner all over it. I know you guys, if you have stayed tuned to the channel, you know that I Raptor lined the bumpers a couple weeks back, so another cool thing to keep up on there. So that'll be coming down the pipeline as well. And with that, it's a wrap. I'm going to be out of here, getting out of this shop. It's like way freaking hot in this garage, and I just want to get home and get out of here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, make sure you turn on the bell notifications so you guys get notified when I come out with cool, awesome content, just like this one here today. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and as always, you guys stay awesome. See ya.